All right, we're live.
Hey,
Okay,
everybody.
hey everybody. We got Paul sitting there in Florida, me in California. Unfortunately, we do not have a Jason tonight. For those Jason fans that are love his input, he's got other obligations tonight, and it just didn't work out to do another time for this show. So Paul and I are going to wing it, and we'll just do the best we can without Jason tonight. um, hmm. We do want to talk about the game that was last night. I'd like to start a little bit by talking about the quarterback situation.
We have a quarterback situation? Who knew?
We are. Um, well, let's just. I'm going to segue into a topic that Paul wants to talk about. We are without our number one quarterback, our number one tight end, without our number two and three running backs.
One and two.
Yeah, one and two, and um, our best defensive player, who's been suspended for the entire year due to gambling. Um, let's talk about how other teams would survive, Paul,
Yeah.
without them.
I mean, let's look at Michigan, right? They're the number two team in the country. They're fantastic. They recruit really well. They're super deep. And yet, what would Michigan's offense look like without J.J. McCarthy, without Blake Corum, without Edwards, without their starting tight end, right? These are big time names, and you know, would would the expectations at Michigan be different if they didn't have J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum? We saw how Michigan they they were impacted without Blake Corum late last year. And then Edwards and whoever their starting tight end is right now. Because I honestly don't know. But the point is, if you start taking multiple starters, including the quarterback, off of any team, uh, the offensive production is probably going to take a huge dip. Just look at Ohio State. Look at how great we all know that they probably have the best collection of wide receivers, and with their new quarterback, their offense has not been fantastic this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Iowa fans, we probably need to reevaluate just how difficult we're grading Brian and Kirk, and it was kind of shameful, those chants and Kinnick last night. That was wrong.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of situations that happened that weren't Brian's fault or even Kirk's fault.
Yeah.
Um, Kirk even in his post game, but I'll bring that up here in a little bit. I want to continue this discussion a little bit. Jared says we need to talk about the coach's confidence surrounding the QB issue. Do the coaches trust an injured veteran more than a healthy underclassman? Um, Here's my thoughts. I think we pushed Cade to come back too quick. Okay, and even though Cade said he was feeling better than he ever has before, and his quad injury was on his right leg, and we all know that whatever he did on his left leg, whether it be a knee or whatever issue. It looks like a knee, but nobody knows how bad it is because nobody's saying yet. Okay. So do you think that they rushed him back and that maybe Cade wasn't as healthy as he was and he was kind of baby in the right side of his leg, which led to an injury on his left side of his leg? Do you think that contributed to the fact, I mean, not knowing everything, just your personal opinion, not, what do you think? Do you think it contributed to the part of the problem?
I think what we could be looking at here, at least part of this, could be NIL, because we NIL ponied up a lot of money for Cade McNamara, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's sort of like drafting, an NFL team drafting a quarterback, in the first round or number one overall. That they you don't draft a quarterback in the number 2 in the draft to have him sit. So
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I'm just wondering if his pre-existing injuries may have led to the current injury,
I think it's
just because And by the way, why didn't he just heave the ball out of the end zone, out of play?
it
Why
just
did he
doesn't.
have to run? He knows he can't run.
Yeah. I think it's football, and people get hurt all the time. And, no contact injuries and things like that. It's just
Right.
one of those things.
I think I think Jason said it best on his live feed last night. Why can't Iowa have any shiny toys that stay healthy?
We are definitely a little snake bit this year in the injury department, especially on the offensive side.
Mhm.
Uh, Losing Luke Lachey and Cade, and we were always kind of playing with fire, weren't we? With Cade, I mean, it always
Yeah.
seemed like, you know,
Yeah. Okay. And we don't really know what's going on with Kay. I mean, it's definitely multiple weeks without him. Whether it's a bad enough injury to take him out for the whole year, which I think many people are speculating that he may have an ACL on that
yeah,
left knee. Okay. All right. Let's just talk about Deacon and how he did. His first real game action where the game was on the line.
mm-hmm.
Okay. How would you grade Deacon's performance?
I'd give him about a C plus.
Okay.
He's it was a passing grade. He certainly didn't excel. But he didn't do anything terrible at the same time, right? So, uh, uh it, he didn't get any help from his receivers. Part of that could be too. It's it's really hard for these guys to get into the flow of a game when you haven't brought them into the flow of the game. Uh, so I mean, it's like Caleb Brown. It was the third or fourth quarter by the time we finally threw him a football and he dropped it. But I mean, and those things get magnified too, because it's like the one time we finally did throw it to him, he dropped it, right? So it's not like he had 7 other catches and it's like, okay, well, he dropped one, that happens. This is like, well,
Well, Kirk said in his post-game interview, I went back and listened for myself, and I'm kind of paraphrasing it a little bit, that if you want passes thrown to you, don't drop them.
Yeah.
Okay? It's almost like he's sending a message to his wide receivers. Just like he sent a message to the running back that fumbled yesterday.
Right.
If you want to continue to carry the ball, don't fumble it.
Right.
Without really coming out and saying, if he wants to continue to carry that ball, he needs, you know what I mean? He's just putting a generalization out there. And so I thought that was quite interesting. On Deacon, I thought Deacon did okay. I'm not a fan of Deacon. I don't like the way he throws his ball. I know it's not an excuse, but these guys aren't used to catching balls from Deacon. And he throws it like a rocket. You see how hard he throws that ball in there? I mean, my God, these guys just like, oh, that
hurt. Brett Favre threw a hard ball, and he completed a lot of passes. So I mean, the idea that I'm not saying that he's Brett Favre. Everybody calm down. I'm just saying there are quarterbacks that were known for throwing hard footballs. John Elway, I think, threw a very hard football.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing stories about guys that had broken fingers catching John Elway's passes. Pretty sure he's a Hall of Famer. So, and that's one of those things too. I don't know if
that your phone?
Yeah.
You need to take that.
Uh, Give me 1 sec.
All right. Okay. South Bend says, I thought
Hey,
Deacon was a
I'm
great
in the middle of.
fireman and a hell of a cheerleader. But the real question is how can Labus start and win a bowl game and then apparently be very behind Deacon? Well, South Bend, as you know, Labus was hurt all of spring and all of fall camp, I believe. Um, and he didn't start practice until the week of the first game. And I think Kirk is not feeling real comfortable with him right now because he hasn't had time. I mean, he's had 5 weeks to practice with the team, and I don't know. He's probably wasn't taking any first team reps. Um, so he wasn't taking any first team reps. I'm sure of it. I think he'll get about 25. I don't know how Iowa works it, but I'm going to guess that he'll get about 25% of first team reps this week, just so that we can have him a little bit ready to go for. Um, we'll have him ready to go for in case because now he's just like Hill was. Now Labus is now in a position where he's one play away from going into the game, so he's got to get some reps with the first team, and I was talking with another person today via my text message, and he disagrees. He thinks only Cade will. He says you can only get one quarterback ready, but isn't it standard procedure to give the top two quarterbacks split time with the first team reps? Would you say that's true, Paul, or no?
I don't think so. I think your starter gets the lion's share of reps with the ones.
Right, and I agree with that part.
And then, your two probably does, he does get some, but it's definitely not a 50-50. It might be like 80-20.
Yeah. But anyway, South Bend, to answer your question, I'm going to guess that Labus is not caught up to where he needs to be yet. And because because Cade was hurt most of fall camp, he's taken most of the snaps anyway, so he should be ready, and he looked ready. Somebody made a comment on the side over here that he looked ready when he came in. He did look ready. He didn't look lost in the woods out there. I did love the way he rolled out of the pocket a lot. I mean, we didn't see much of that from Cade, but Cade wasn't able to do a lot of rollouts due to the quad. So we don't know what a healthy Cade could have done for us, in all honesty. But I hope that answers some of the questions that you guys got on the quarterback situation.
And certainly I know everybody wants to talk about the quarterback spot, but I thought as a whole the team played better certainly than they did at Michigan State or at Penn State. But how should I put this? Are teams really figuring out Phil's defense at this point? I mean, granted, they only gave up 16 points. So, I mean, maybe not. I mean, again, that's good. That's great defense in this day and age of football.
Iowa's defense has always been, I call soft until they want to turn it on. But they've always, as you know, they don't want to give up the big play.
Right.
So they've always given everybody whatever they want in front of them, as long as they keep it in front of them, because they figure sooner or later they're going to either make a mistake or something,
penalty
penalty or something that mistakes will stall your drive sooner or later. We just don't want to give up the big play to you.
Right.
As Coach Franklin figured out, and I don't think it was Coach Franklin because I think it was actually started with the Utah State coach.
Mm-hmm.
They figured out that if you can just grind it, if you're willing to take 4 or 5 yards at a time, what Iowa is willing to give you, you might get a bigger play out of it. But if you got patience and don't get crazy, you can move the ball on Iowa.
Sure.
Which, Utah State has proven. Penn State has proven. Michigan State proved it. Except I would say probably by the time the fourth quarter rolled around, Michigan State wasn't moving the ball very well at all.
Yeah. Well, I think their that tight end of theirs was hurt, and that was a big loss for their offense. Uh, and
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was. I mean, we couldn't stop him. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
so he was a tight end. Number 6 was a tight end.
yeah,
Wow. He
yeah.
wasn't wearing a tight end number, so I figured he was a receiver, just a big old boy. He was a big old boy.
No, he was tight end, and again, this kind of goes back to how tough it can be maybe to grade Brian's offense right now. Now you're missing QB1. I would have had Lachey as a better tight end than that number 6 for Michigan State, and their offense just sputtered after he went down. So
Yeah. Here's something that it's kind of like out of the subject because it would be something we would talk about later this week.
Mhm.
Is Purdue sacked Illinois 7 times.
Yeah.
You heard that? Wow.
Yeah.
Are you even scared of Purdue a little bit?
Yes.
A tiny bit? I am. Purdue is kind of unpredictable at this point. You don't know what you're going to get with Purdue.
I think Iowa is unpredictable at this point, right? I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's not a game left on the schedule where I'm like automatic win, but there's not a game where it's automatic loss. It's just, we could literally win or lose any of the games we have remaining, and would it be a huge surprise? Not to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excuse me. I'm trying to read some of these comments. Okay. Okay. He's trying to explain what he thinks is going on with the workouts on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the offense gave up 7 points. Yeah, that was the fumble.
That was another fluky kind of thing, but yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of happened right. I think right after we intercepted them, and then we turned around and fumbled the ball on a scoop and score.
Right.
So Michigan gets ahead anyway.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of fluky. You're going from 1 minute, you're just cheering, yes, we stopped that drive interception. Way to go, Coop. And then the next play, you're going, oh, crap.
Yeah. As much, I don't know what you want to call it. What they are, to me, they are turnovers. But I mean, you have the 2 interceptions for Michigan State. You had the punt return from Coop. You had the kind of a shanked punt from Michigan State, and then we stopped them on 4th down, which is a turnover on downs. I mean, they have the equivalent of about 5 turnovers, and we needed every single one of them. We needed every single one of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, excuse me, guys. This is where I would rather have Jason because then I can just be silent for a while and just let you guys go.
Yeah, Michigan State was very balanced. 193 passing, 150. The 156 yards rushing is definitely that would be a concern for me. We don't typically get run on like that. So, but part of that too was their quarterback. So, Deagle has more reps with the one.
Yeah, that's true. That's why he's out there. Well, let's just talk about some of that stuff. We had 14 first downs, and they had 20 first downs. Total yards, we had 222. That sure beats the week before.
Okay.
They had 349 yards for 4.6 average. Ours was 3.8 average. As was already pointed out, I believe by somebody, was at South Bend. Yeah. They had a rush of 156 yards. Ours was 61. For our rush average was 2.3, and theirs is 4.9, which doesn't surprise me because they were knocking out yards. It's just like, why? What is going on with our rushing attack? Why can't our guys get? We've got some talented rushers there.
I still think it's now as far as blaming Brian or Kirk or whatever and scheme. We have a scheme issue when it comes to running the football because you notice what is effective against Iowa. These teams are using sideline to sideline, and they're spreading out the Iowa defense, and then they're able to kind of gash us a little bit. With some of these, well, we're using 3 tight ends and or 2 tight ends and a fullback or whatever. We're letting them put 10 guys in the box, and we don't have enough guys to block, and that's why we're struggling to run the football, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense because I know the announcers did point that out yesterday, exactly what you just said, and we kind of hard to run through all those people.
Yeah. Now here's the flip side of that is, just like in the Iowa State game or one of those earlier games where if you catch them over pursuing or one bad run fit, you can pop a big run because there's not going to be anybody back there,
mm-hmm.
But you got to keep doing it and keep doing it. You're really banging your head against a wall, trying to churn out 2 and 3 yards and to hope to pop one like that.
So, okay, when we get those guys coming down the line, we should have guys, receivers and tight ends alike, who are wide open behind that. Why can't we pop the ball to them and let them get big yardage? I mean, I think you pointed out that you felt like our passing attack was very difficult, and we should keep it more simple. And it does. And I was kind of watching some football today and other teams yesterday, and my God, they don't do a lot of difficult things just to get their guys open. I mean, and the quarterback gets it out there quick. NFL team today going on a 2-point conversion. I believe it was the Colts against the Rams. How easy was their 2-point? The guy couldn't have been more wide open. The guy comes on the line in motion, and then they hike the ball, and he just sneaks over the end zone line, and he's wide open, and the quarterback runs over and throws it to him. Mm-hmm. Simple. I mean, you don't see that with the Iowa passing attack. Ours looks so complicated, and it's just like, oh, let's check our reads here. By that time you've got, Colby or somebody not holding his position any longer and something, and I don't know. It's kind of frustrating is why we can't simplify this passing attack a little bit, because I think the passing game could have opened up the running game, because if you're going to stack the box that much, then you're going to have guys open behind that line. You're going to have guys get away and open up, and I don't see why we can't just, even a floater or just a pass. I remember back in the day, I think it was even in Kirk Ferentz's early days, I think we had a thing called the swinging gate or something where a tight end would just bust across behind the line, and we just pop him the ball and let him get as much yardage as he could. And it almost worked every time for first down. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know. I think it was called the swinging gate play in those days, but that was under a different, offensive coordinator. Maybe we need Ken O'Keefe back.
I would say this, I mean, the only you can line up in whatever formation you want and use whatever spacing you want. It doesn't feel like we try to force them out of their defensive alignments, right? Like, mm-hmm. if a team puts a ninth guy in the eighth, ninth guy in the box, we don't look at that and go, okay, you know what? We're gonna have one-on-one on the outside. Let's just take a shot and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Not nearly enough, and that's the kind, and maybe to some extent, that's really what the defense wants, is for us to do that. But if you can prove that you can threaten them by doing that, then it does help open up the running game.
Okay. There was a third down where we had such a tight formation that MSU had 10 in the box and nailed us after a 2-yard gain. Fourth, we punt it. It's frustrating and confusing. It is. It is. I mean, and Kirk he was asked about the booze for Brian, how he felt about that, and the only thing he said was, and his quote was, "Well, nobody likes a 3 and out."
Well,
I mean, Kirk has done a wonderful job with this program after it collapsed at the end of the Hayden Fry years, and I think it's because people were negative recruiting against Hayden Fry because of his age, and so Hayden wasn't able to get the people he needed. Plus, I don't think Hayden had the fire left in him in his last couple years. But after that disaster that Hayden basically left Kirk to start with, and Kirk, had to rebuild that program basically from bottom up. He did such a great job, and he's been consistent over the years. I mean, he's gone through mediocre years, and right now, if you don't count last year, up until last year, he was going through a period where they were doing pretty solid since 2015. They were pretty solid since 2015. I mean, they were up there. They were consistent. It felt like he had the program where he needed it to be, just like the ball bounce, a ball bounce here, a ball bounce there, a ref call here, ref call there, and we were very close to having some undefeated special seasons there.
Well, I mean, at the very least, I mean, we're a 7 or 8 win floor team, right? I mean, going into the year, the expectation seems to be we're going to win 7 or 8 games. That's the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this before. If you're not Michigan or Ohio State or Penn State, probably in the Big Ten, you do not have a floor of 7 to 8 wins. You don't. Purdue doesn't. Illinois doesn't. Minnesota doesn't. I mean, these are programs that they could go anywhere from, their floor is maybe 4 or 5 wins at any of these other programs. And they are our contemporaries. Not we are not a blue blood program. We are not Michigan. We are not Ohio State. We're not Alabama.
We're not
right?
Penn State.
Right. We're not Penn State. Mm-hmm. So if you say, okay, well, Iowa's a second tier program, I think that, first of all, to me, that's still very complimentary because there can only be so many elites. That's why they're the elites. Mm-hmm. And you start getting into tier 2, the teams that have that 8-win floor, and I think that that's Iowa, that's Wisconsin, it's Auburn, it's maybe like a Texas A&M. I mean, it's still good, solid company,
right? And I said this in my one of my solo podcasts when I was doing the Big Ten, this summer officially expanded with 4 Pac-12 teams, and I talked about Iowa's placement, and I pointed out who the teams were that were going to consistently finish in the top tier, and I put Iowa and Wisconsin in the second tier of teams.
Sure.
And I don't know what's going to happen the rest of this season. I don't know with what we got, I mean, sooner we get our running backs back, that'll help, but I don't know if they would have done any better, our 2 running backs.
Yeah.
But we know Lachey's not coming back, and Cade's probably not coming back. And so that's not going to help. And I think watching Eric All just proved that Lachey had something special going this season.
Yeah.
I mean, he was snagging just about everything his way, and I kept thinking about the balls that that all couldn't get to, or the ones that he dropped, because he did drop at least one.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened with Lachey. He'd have grabbed him, and so I don't know where this season's going. These guys are discussing it. Jared's got him on 9+. Brian has him at solid 10. I had him at a solid 10, 11 wins until yesterday. But then again, I don't know that maybe Deacon's going to end up being better than Cade, because Cade really hasn't been the quarterback through the first 4 games that we thought he would be. And we know that he's been playing injured. I understand that. And he hasn't played in a year. I know that too. But also Deacon hasn't played well over a year too, because Deacon sat on the bench last year.
Right.
And so I don't know where the season's going to go from here on out. I do know that I have concerns about Purdue, Rutgers, Wisconsin, and Nebraska left.
Yeah.
And what do we have left for games? 7? 7. So 4 out of the 7 games I'm concerned. I'm not concerned right now about Illinois or Minnesota. Northwestern, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get with Northwestern, but they're showing that they can play ball.
Right. They hung around with Penn State for a while. I mean, again, it was still only 10-0 Iowa and Penn State at halftime, right?
Right.
So, I mean,
and if not for a fumble, we might have at least had 3, maybe even 7 points. We don't know. We were in the red zone when that fumble happened.
Correct. So, I mean,
we'd have had at least a minimum of 3 points at that part. And maybe the game doesn't turn that way. I think they said the next drive is where the ball hit the back of our guy on a punt. We stopped him in the punt, and that turned things around a little bit too for Penn State. That put him in a very good field position.
Yeah, and Penn State fumbled the opening kickoff against Northwestern and basically just handed them 7 points. I mean, they got the ball, at the 6-yard line or whatever it was. So, I mean, some of that was, where the ball did not bounce Iowa's way against Penn State. Things tend to even out over the course of the season, right? And they had a ball or two not bounce their way at Northwestern. So,
yeah. Well, here's something too, Jared. That would be on the receivers. Can't drop 11 passes in a game. Officially, guys, I know it looked like it was more, but officially, the University of Iowa stats that they put out listed as 6 drops.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it looked like a lot more, but I guess they must have saw something in the way those balls went that they weren't actually drops. So I'm not an expert in the area when you call a ball a drop and when you don't. I mean, even the announcers talked about it, that the stats they were getting at one point said they had 4 drops, and the announcers are going, I think it's a little more than that.
Right now in Nebraska, they have talent. They have good football players, but man, it's in their head. Like they can't stop turning the football over and that. So
yeah, and he's right here. Yes, the 10-0 deficit was on our special teams and defense. Absolutely correct. Yeah. But that's history. What's history?
Yeah.
We're talking about a win that we scored 26 points in, that it didn't even look like we were going to get to 20.
Right.
I was having doubts whether we could get to 16. We needed 16 to at least get it to overtime.
Man, it was nice to see. I felt like we were good in all 3 phases last night, right? I mean, the offense, again, I'm grading on a curve here. What does it look like without your starting quarterback, your top 2 running backs, and your tight end who your tight that Lachey was probably gonna be like a Mackey semi-finalist. I don't know if he would have been a finalist because I mean that Bowers kid from Georgia is gonna win it anyway. But would he have finished top 3 or top 5?
Definitely.
Probably, yeah. So I mean.
Yeah.
it's a big loss. It's a big loss.
It'll be
And
interesting to see what Lachey decides to do if he decides to come back and have that season with Iowa again next year, or if he feels he's done enough for the NFL and just wants to get ready for the combines and stuff for the NFL.
well, depending on he may not be ready to run and stuff by the combine time.
Yeah,
So
and that's true too because I mean he does have a broken ankle.
yeah.
But you think it's only supposedly takes 6 weeks to heal bones, heal a break, right? I mean mostly. So you
Yeah,
would think that even by the end of before the football season was over, that he would at least be healthy.
but I mean, let's say so now he's kind of laid up for the next 6 weeks, right? He's not running, he's not conditioning, he's not doing all this. All of a sudden, 6 weeks from now, we're into December, January. Now, at this point, he's kind of rehabbing it. He's not just okay. The cast comes off, and now I can go out and run routes, right?
Right.
He's got to kind of work his way back. Into shape and physically and things like that. I don't know that he would put up the kind of combine numbers he would like, not even being able to really train until January, February.
Let's talk about this one. This one's kind of interesting. Little off topic. Pat Fitzgerald was spotted on the sidelines. Your thoughts? He came with both of his sons, who yeah. I don't know if they're both being actively recruited by Iowa or if because it was a recruiting date. I mean, they brought in recruits to watch the game. If he just decided to bring his sons and talk to the Iowa coaches, then have no idea what's going on there. But it sounds like he has a son in high school who's a quarterback who is being recruited by some of the heavies.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might be worth a look to recruit him. His son Jared is a freshman at Northwestern. Currently is a tight end. I mean, Jared, not his son Jared, but Jared, his son, is a tight end, like you said, and he is a freshman. I don't know if he's playing this year or not. But if he's worth his salt and gold, it might be another tight end we could bring in, another future tight end that we could send to the NFL.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If Brian decides to move on to another opportunity, I wouldn't mind having Pat as our offensive coordinator.
Is he an offensive-minded guy?
No, remember he was a linebacker at Northwestern.
So he's a defensive-minded. Okay,
but he knows how to attack a defense.
Yeah,
and his offenses have given Iowa enough fits, and obviously he likes the running quarterback or the mobile quarterback. I'm just thinking about what he could do with Marco or with the Razor kid that we've got coming in. I feel like he would be. I think it'd be a good rehab place for him to. And again, before whatever happened in Northwestern happened, people had really high opinions of Fitzpatrick.
Oh yeah, because look, Fitzgerald. Yeah. Because many people thought if he was anywhere with Northwestern, he'd have a consistent winning program all the time.
Yeah.
He could have been a Wisconsin or type thing. It just, his hands are tied with the type of player he can bring in. But when he brings in those smart guys into Northwestern, they're pretty smart players. And not bad either. He's done a great job. No, as much as I'd love to hate the guy early in his career, the way he was beaten up on Iowa and his antics on the sideline, I've come to respect that. He's one of the coaches I have respected. But he's not going to – right now, I don't think he's hireable by anybody until he gets this mess cleared up with Northwestern. The lawsuits that he's filed against Northwestern and other people, that's going to move on, and he wants to clear his name. And so I think that right now any program that would hire him, it would be, kind of like when Doyle left here and got hired by the Jags. You saw the fallback on that immediately. What happened?
Oh yeah.
So I mean, Doyle didn't last a day or two on the job. Yeah, that's what would happen with Iowa if they hired Fitzgerald. I wouldn't mind them bringing him in as some kind of an assistant in the future,
Right.
if that were the case. The guy knows his job well, but also I don't think they would pay him as much as they want. I believe that we had a new offensive coordinator on the hook. Last year it was Wisconsin's coach, and we couldn't pay him what he wanted, and so he moved on.
Yeah.
And this according to Jason, and Jason seems to be right when he talks about his inside people. Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to see us replace the offensive line coach before we replace the offensive coordinator. That's just me. I mean, for me, play calling it's secondary to execution, right? I mean, like, again, if we're executing the plays, nobody cares about play calling. If things work, great. When they don't work, then it's just, I think people feel like I can blame the offensive coordinator. It's much easier to replace one offensive coordinator than it is to admit we have 11 guys that suck at football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brian says if BF decides to go on his own, he wants Chris as the OC. That's the one we tried to hire and couldn't come to an agreement with him. And that's when the whole thing came out about Brian's contract and everything, that Brian would be staying and everything. I don't know. Remember, Chris lost his job because they were unhappy with the offense that the school was unhappy with the offense that he put out there.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, you hire Paul Chryst, and the offense looks exactly like it does now. I mean, really nothing changes.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I thought too. I thought it would be very similar to what we have right now. It used to be, in the Big Ten, I always enjoyed playing Wisconsin and Michigan State because it was just hard-nosed football, old-fashioned style by both schools. And, and of course, a lot of the schools don't do that in the Big Ten anymore. And Michigan State seems to be going away from that, although yesterday they looked a lot like normal.
Yeah.
Like we expected them to. And Wisconsin's definitely gone away from that.
By the way, I thought the NBC production last night was grade A. I mean, the pregame show from inside Kinnick, and it wasn't just a scoreboard show. It was a legit pregame show. They showed the visitor locker rooms. They
is it still pink?
Oh yeah, and just the storylines of the game coming in and the players and whatever. It was a legit half an hour pregame show dedicated towards our game. I thought it was really, really well done by NBC.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry for the silence. I'm just kind of trying to read some of these things. It's going to look the same anyway. Look at GD's offense at Texas versus Iowa. Might as well have had someone who knows how to run offense that you can recruit it to the Midwest. Okay, wait a minute. I don't understand this one. It says Wisconsin is on its way out with their new offense. Illinois is on the way in. What's that mean? That Wisconsin's new offense isn't going to work because they're scoring a lot of points with it. Is that what I mean? Brian, you're going to have to be more specific on what you mean by that. And unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
Well, we're 45 minutes in. Should we maybe just review our picks?
Sure. Okay. So, Paul, you and I tied for first place yesterday.
Hey, look at that.
We both had 8-2 record.
Okay. 80%. That'll win you a lot of money at Vegas.
Yeah. You lost Illinois. And Utah. Okay.
Utah lost?
Yes.
Oh, well, dang.
I know it. Tell me about it. I lost North Carolina State, and Utah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're pretty good on our wins. However, our big guy Jason, he lost Illinois, LSU,
Utah.
and Utah. I originally gave us all a loss for Kentucky because I thought they lost, but when I looked at the scoreboard later, no, they actually won.
Well, they spanked Florida.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought they lost. Okay.
And you know what's interesting about that is, and by the way, Mark Stoops, he would be a good coach for Iowa, but
everybody wants one of the Stoop brothers, but he's like 60. They're both in their 60s.
yeah, I mean, I know
I want somebody who's going to be here for 20 years, not somebody who's going to be here five years and retire, unless they bring somebody with them that's going to take over the program in a smooth transition, much like when what's his name left Oklahoma for Utah. I mean USC. They just brought his assistant up and he ran the team. Just much like he was an assistant under Stoops. When Stoops left, they just brought him up, and so it was seamless transition.
Up until about a year ago or 2 years ago, when Kentucky beat Florida for the first time, they beat them for the first time in like 29 years or something. It was the longest streak in major college football of teams that played every year that Florida was just dominating that series. But now, I mean, I think Kentucky's either won 2 in a row or 2 of the last 3, maybe 3 in a row. It's so.
Yeah. So anyway, I was going to say, you and Jason are both tied at first place now for 27-12 overall.
That's right.
I'm 1 game behind you both at 26-13.
All right.
Yeah, I had changed my Oregon's pick to Utah, or we be in a 3-way tie. And I got flack. I don't know if one of the persons on here remembers. I said I would never pick Purdue again, but I hung with them.
Yeah,
and won. And so, yeah, thank you, Purdue. I'm 1-1 with you this year. Hopefully, this next weekend, because I'm going to pick Iowa, obviously. So, hopefully, I go right on that one.
That game's on the cock, right? That's the deal here. Is that
it's only on 2:30 in the afternoon. Probably the only way I'm going to watch it if I don't get a ticket to the game is I'm probably going to have to watch it on my cell phone. I have Peacock loaded and ready to go on my cell phone. I was going to take my 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 tablet with me, and I just don't want, because I already have to drag the laptop with me. I don't want to have to drag a phone, laptop, and a tablet with me.
Yeah,
Iowa.
Yeah, this whole streaming thing. I know people say, "Oh, how much money you can save by streaming versus just paying for cable," but it's getting to the point now where you have to have so many different subscriptions. The game's going to be on Amazon Prime, or the game's only going to be on Peacock, or the game's only going to be on this or that. It's just it was so much easier.
Yeah. Well, it's our previous TV contracts, we didn't have any streaming games except for BTM Plus, but but the only games we went to BTM Plus were minor games, like, games that weren't going to get televised anyway.
Yeah. Preseason basketball games and stuff.
Right. Like a lot of preseason basketball games. Right. But Big Ten has always found a way to make sure that every Big Ten game got televised, even if they picked up the slack and televised the rest of them.
Do you know if that basketball game inside of Kinnick, is that going to be on TV somewhere?
Yes, it is.
Is it? Okay.
I forgot who picked it up, but somebody picked it up.
That's good.
Yeah. That's going to be a great game, and I hope they get to play it outdoors, that the weather isn't really nasty.
That's got to be coming up in the next week or two, right? I mean,
October 15th.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks from today.
Boy,
it'll be on a Sunday.
It's going to be iffy. I mean, mid-October. It could be a beautiful day. It could be a chilly day.
Well,
There could be
get this.
flurries.
Okay, we're leaving for Iowa on Wednesday, so I've already checked the forecast for every day we're going to be in Iowa. 80s and 70s, except for one day, Saturday. The Saturday they were there, football game day, obviously, in the 50s only with the lows in the 30s.
Ooh.
Cold.
Little chilly for those of us who don't live there anymore.
Yeah. But, I'm surprised to see that the rest of the week is going to be gorgeous. Here, I'm already packing. I got my jeans packed, my sweats packed, and I'm thinking, damn, I've got to go pull maybe a pair of jeans out of there and put a couple of pair of shorts in there.
Yeah.
That is beautiful weather. And, I just hate to see that game day is going to be in the 50s, though.
Yeah, well, we'll see. You never know. Things can change.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But 50s is kind of Bakersfield type of weather in the winter. So, so we're used to it here. All right. I don't really have much else. And the guys have all quit texting us here.
Yeah.
I just got, do you think, Paul, because we do have a couple of minutes, do you think Iowa's expectations have changed with all the injuries and everything, and now seeing some of the other teams, what they actually look like compared to what we thought back at the first of the year when we had game one?
Yes and no. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think Iowa fans' expectations of what Iowa is are going to change. They should. I mean, I hate to keep going back to this, but again, what would an elite team like Michigan, what would they look like without, their quarterback JJ McCarthy, without Blake Corum, without Edwards, without their tight end? They're not putting up 50 points a game, without those four guys. So this idea that the Iowa offense should just keep rolling along, I think, it's an unfair expectation.
Okay. Brian says, wait a minute. That was a follow-up on that. Here we go. Jared says winning the West is still the expectation. I saw an article today written by a Wisconsin reporter. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. They said that Wisconsin's going to run away with the West because everybody else in the league sucks. They're saying that Iowa, with the injuries and the inconsistencies that they're showing on offense, is going to kill them, and what they won't be able to stop Wisconsin. So they're saying that Wisconsin will win the West. But, of course, we're saying the same thing because we're Iowa people, and they're saying the same thing over there. And I just thought it was kind of like, yeah, it's just what perspective you have. I wonder what the Minnesota and the Illinois media people are saying. Are they saying they're going to win the West?
Well, after Minnesota lost to Northwestern, and by the way, they won against Louisiana, but the score wasn't overwhelming.
No, I think they just barely beat them, didn't they? And I didn't watch the game, but it was a close game.
I thought they won like 31-24 or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a very close game. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get out of here, guys. Paul, we're either going to have to do this on Tuesday, or I'm just going to have to figure this out on my own because I'll be flying all day on Wednesday. My wife said I could possibly be, because we'll be in Iowa, but we could be in the hotel room between 7 and 7:30 Iowa time, and I could possibly do it from the hotel room. But my wife said, why take a chance on it? She said, don't do the show at all. But I don't know. What you think?
Maybe we just submit our picks to you off the air through the chat or something. Okay. So we have those. Because Tuesday is my wife's birthday. So
okay, so yeah, we don't want to do that then. So why don't we plan on? I'll try to sneak a solo show in there, maybe on the road, maybe while I'm flying and stuff, and I'll get you the guys' the picks later on, and then we'll do it that way.
Absolutely.
And then it'll be the same thing the following Wednesday too, because I'll be flying home. But no, I'll be home in Bakersfield by 11:30 in the morning.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm at Wednesday, so that we're just talking about this Wednesday. So guys, I'll do a solo show on Wednesday. I'll try to let you guys know when I'm doing it. It'll be on the road. It might be with my cell phone. We'll see how it works out.
I might be able to jump on. I should be able to jump on Wednesday, I believe. So
Okay.
we'll see what happens.
All right. Yeah. I'll let you know.
And Coach will be back too. So
yeah, Coach will be back. I just wish there was a way that if you guys could use the software, that you guys could just do the show without me.
we can talk about it off air.
Yeah. Okay. We'll figure it out. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us again. We do appreciate you guys commenting and your questions. Great show. Jared says, can't wait for Wednesday. Hopefully Jared must have wrote that before we just said. Jared, there'll be something on Wednesday. I'm just not sure how we're going to do it yet. Because I'll be traveling to Iowa. All right. And by the way, if any of you guys are in the area and you want to get together for supper or dinner or something, I'll meet you guys straight up if you're all in the area that I'm going to be in. So I'll be between Des Moines and Marshalltown and Waterloo.
Sweet.
So if you guys are in any of those areas in between, hit me up.
Sounds good.
I'll get to meet some of these people in person. All right. Well, let's get out of here then. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What I wanted to say. Last thing I want to say, Paul's going, could you wrap this up? I want to go to bed. Guys, thank you. Make sure you hit the like button. Okay. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this with your friends, guys. We are starting to grow again. We've gone from 250 to, I believe, 255 or 256 in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So that's showing that you guys are working. You're helping me build this thing again. Let's keep this drive. I call it my drive to 500. Like Brian has his drive to 325. Mine's drive to 500.
By the way,
get to 500, and then we'll work on 1,000 after that.
And here we sit. We're 4-1. I mean,
yeah. And I'm glad you guys like the show. I mean, I really do. Thanks for watching, guys, and we appreciate you. I know it would probably be a little better with Jason on here. You get my unexpertise knowledge, and you still get Paul's humor and everything. But anyway, I'm going to get off. And Paul, thank you for getting on tonight. And Jason, if you're watching this, I hope your dinner plans went well tonight.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, guys, let's get out of here. See you later.
Go Hawks.
Bye.